Young and the Restless, Spoilers. Title: The Reckoning, Phyllis and Sharon's desperate struggle for truth and survival. In the turbulent lives of Sharon and Phyllis, there was always bound to be a breaking point. Their long-standing rivalry had simmered for years, but the recent events surrounding Heather's death finally pushed them to the edge. With Heather's murder unsolved and Sharon considered a suspect, Phyllis's son Daniel now faced the harsh reality of prison. With his time out on bail dwindling, Phyllis's determination to clear his name grew fiercer. She couldn't bear to see her son pay for a crime he didn't commit, especially when she was convinced that Sharon held the key to the truth. Desperate and distraught, Phyllis set her sights on her nemesis, fully prepared to go to extreme lengths to uncover Heather's real killer. The stage was set for an explosive confrontation when Phyllis and Sharon finally faced each other. Tension thick in the air, words flew like daggers, accusations mounting as their simmering hatred ignited. Just as the confrontation reached a fever pitch, an accident set off a blast, a literal explosion that forced them apart. Chance, a loyal friend to both, arrived just in time, shoving the two women out of harm's way before the fire could claim them. For a moment it seemed that things would calm down, that perhaps in the wake of near disaster, Sharon and Phyllis might retreat and rethink their battle. But peace was fleeting. As Sharon attempted to make her way home, Phyllis circled back, her mind set on one final, desperate act. In the dimming twilight, she approached Sharon from behind and struck her on the head, knocking her unconscious. When Sharon awoke, she found herself bound to a cold, unforgiving chair in a dark, confined space. The faint scent of damp cement and mildew filled the air, and the chilling realization dawned on her. Phyllis had taken her hostage. As Sharon's eyes adjusted to the dimness, she strained against the ropes binding her hands and feet, feeling the weight of her predicament settling in. She knew exactly who was behind this. Phyllis's intentions had become disturbingly clear. This wasn't just about justice, it was personal. Phyllis was determined to make Sharon confess, hoping to extract a forced confession that would exonerate Daniel and finally end Sharon's shadow over her life. But Sharon was equally resolute. She wasn't about to give Phyllis the satisfaction of breaking her spirit, even if it meant enduring Phyllis's wrath. For hours, Phyllis interrogated Sharon, her voice filled with rage and desperation as she demanded answers. "Admit it," she shouted, her voice echoing off the stone walls. "You were there the night Heather was killed, weren't you? You know what happened to her." Sharon remained silent, her expression defiant as she stared back at Phyllis, refusing to yield. It was a dangerous game of endurance, each woman pushing the other to their limits. But Phyllis's resolve began to falter. She had expected Sharon to break down, to finally admit her guilt. Yet Sharon's silence only seemed to grow stronger, her determination more unyielding. The longer Phyllis held her captive, the more she began to doubt her own actions. What if she was wrong? What if this unrelenting push for a confession was leading her down a path she couldn't return from? In that dark, claustrophobic space, Phyllis grappled with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, fear, and a gnawing uncertainty that threatened to unravel her plans. She wanted Sharon to confess, to release her son from the grip of injustice, but Sharon's silence was like a wall she couldn't break through. Frustrated and exhausted, Phyllis found herself on the verge of desperation. Meanwhile, Sharon's mind raced. Bound and helpless, she knew that her only chance of survival lay in staying calm and finding a way to turn the situation to her advantage. Phyllis might have the upper hand now, but Sharon had been through enough battles to know that patience and cunning were her allies. She studied Phyllis, waiting for a moment of weakness, a crack in her armor. Yet as the hours wore on, Phyllis's desperation grew. Her plans were unraveling, and the control she once wielded so confidently was slipping through her fingers. For all her anger and determination, she couldn't bring herself to take Sharon's life. The rivalry, the years of bitterness, all of it seemed trivial in the face of this bleak reality. Phyllis stood back, eyes filled with an emotion she could barely recognize herself. She had come here with fire in her heart, but now, faced with Sharon's unwavering silence, the intensity of her own actions struck her. She wanted justice, but at what cost? She had set out to save her son, but now found herself on the edge of a moral abyss. unsure of how far she was willing to go. As the first rays of dawn crept into the secret room, casting a pale light over the two women, it became clear that this battle would leave both scarred in ways they hadn't anticipated. Phyllis faced a choice: to continue down a dark path that could destroy them both, or to step back and find another way. In the end, the line between justice and revenge had blurred, leaving her to wonder if either of them would ever truly find peace.